My friends had no clue it was going to be as big as it was. They just said, hey, this is going to be cool. Let's do a road trip, because it was only 200 miles to Albany and then down Interstate 87 to Max Yasgur's farm there. And they had no clue that they were going to end up in a human sea of 500,000 people.
Welcome once again to the Talking Archive. I'm Josh Jacobs, and our conversation concludes with JD the DJ. Well, you're talking about also the reunions that you have, the radio reunions in New Orleans each year. Tell us about those events.
Well, we basically do it, I don't want to say where we do it because we'll end up with 50 million people in there, but we do it at a restaurant in the New Orleans area. And basically, Bob Walker, who was a jock from the early days of the mighty 690, WTIX, he's the official cat herder for the event. He's got a huge email list of everybody we can find that's in the New Orleans area as far as broadcasters. And we basically show up for 4 or 5 hours and eat, drink, and be merry, and take a lot of pictures at the event, and they're all posted on my jdthedj.com website. And it's a lot of fun. Like I said, we haven't been able to make contact with Dick Van Dyke or John Larroquette to get them to come, but we've had radio and television people show up, so it's fun.
Yeah.
And a good way to chew the fat with people that have been in New Orleans forever. Angela Hill from Channel 4, the news gal. Norman Robinson, the guy that worked as a news anchor at Channel 6 and worked for the ABC network for a while. He's shown up, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, what was the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
I think it boils down to, the old find something you like to do and figure out how to get somebody to pay you to do it. So obviously, when I started at the college radio station, I discovered I like to do radio, and then figured out a way to get paid to do it. So that's always important. And then, of course, as I said, I'm more of an engineer, more of a rocket scientist than a disc jockey because of the time I spent out at the NASA facility. So that was really enjoyable, and I got heavy into computers at the time, so that was useful. But
not a lot of people can say that. I'm both an engineer for NASA as well as a radio disc jockey.
Yeah. Probably a rare breed, I guess. So I was just looking through my cheat sheet here that I listed in my show prep for this interview. I think we've mentioned everybody except, I know. I never realized that Billy St. John, who did a gig at WPTR when I was there, and he ended up becoming Max Kinkel at CKLW and WCBS-FM. And the interesting, and he went out to CKLW. He came up from WBAZ-AM, which is in Kingston, New York, down the Hudson Valley. He and Pat Holliday and Dr. Don Regan, or Bob Clark, whatever you want to call him, they had made a deal when they were at WBAZ that if any of them made it big, they would try to get the other two in there. And they all ended up working at the Big 8, CKLW, at some point. The odd thing I remember about Bill St. John was that, or Max Kinkel, was somewhere along the line when we were starting my shift and ending his on the weekend. I was on the weekend at the time. We were talking about favorite disc jockeys and whatnot, and I said, well, hands down, for me, it's Dan Ingram. And Billy seemed kind of unimpressed. He was uninterested in Dan Ingram. And lo and behold, he ends up working at the same radio station with Dan Ingram at CBS-FM, and of course he was a heavy Drake format guy, but ended up having a personality. It was strange. He always seemed mad to me, but I guess I don't know what the circumstances were, but apparently now he's well known for being a great guy. So I was surprised to run across that. To me, it was interesting that three guys get together and make a pact, all in their 20s, or even maybe late teens. I don't know. They all end up taking the same path through the radio world. Dennis Jackson was another WRPI guy that did the House of Sound on Saturday nights. He ended up being a radio station owner to talk about confusion of call letters, WRIP in the Catskills. And they do oldies and whatnot out there. And he's come down. I've met him several times at Jazz Fest. He's a big Jazz Fest hound. He'll bring his wife down to Jazz Fest, and they'll stay the entire 2 weeks. And I have trouble just making it through one day at Jazz Fest, So, talk about standing on your feet for hours at a time. If you wanted to get good photos at the main stage, you had to go in the standing area and stand there the entire time from 11 in the morning until 7 at night,
Sounds like somebody who was at Woodstock who stayed up all 3 days.
Well, I didn't go to Woodstock because I had to work that weekend. I was working my summer job at it's now WHAM TV in Rochester. It was WOKR at the time. And several of my high school buddies went to Woodstock, and they had a good time without me, apparently. And that was, one of those things, damn, I wish I could have gone, But
now, when it was being promoted, how big of a because, I think there was it was made for, or they designed it for 50,000 people to be there, and almost 500,000 showed up. And was it originally thought, oh, here's another music festival, or was there kind of a vibe going in your circle, like this is going to be something bigger than what originally was projected?
No, my friends had no clue it was going to be as big as it was. They just said, hey, this is going to be cool. Let's do a road trip, because it was only 200 miles to Albany, and then down Interstate 87 to Max Yasgur's farm there. And they had no clue that they were going to end up in a human sea of 500,000 people. But they made the best of it and enjoyed it. And I had no clue. I was stuck in the control room at Channel 13 when the ABC started to carry video of what was going on at Woodstock. I was, holy cow, what an event,
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, of course, it was still an event because we had the soundtrack albums and all the stuff that ensued from Woodstock. So missed opportunity, just like the Allman Brothers were the house band essentially at the Warehouse in New Orleans, which was the venue for concerts in New Orleans. It's just an old warehouse down on Chapatula Street. And the Allman Brothers, I don't know how many times they performed there. I never saw them. I never got up off my duff to go see them when they were there. This was the venue that was famous for having the Grateful Dead on their opening weekend, and then get busted down on Bourbon Street, set up like a bowling pin. The Allman Brothers would play on a weekend night, like Saturday night at the Warehouse, and then they'd go to Audubon Park, uptown New Orleans, and they'd play a free concert all afternoon long. And I never ever saw them at either place, So don't waste your opportunities. That would be my new best advice ever. Especially when you get to be 75 years old, you're not going to have a whole lot of opportunities left. So by all means, do it, as they say at Nike or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Just do it. My dad missed Woodstock because his car broke down about 200 miles away. But I joked with him. I said, well, you know what? It seemed like they parked cars for like 200 miles because it was such a big crowd, and they walked for miles and miles. So maybe he should have just braved it and
stuck his thumb out, and he would have been
there.
He would have been squeezing in with a whole lot of other people. But
exactly.
Yeah. So your dad was in the 200 miles. That's quite a radius from Woodstock. But
I forget where he was. They say it may have been Montreal, but I'm not sure. I can't remember now.
Okay.
But
that's going the other way up, because that Interstate 87 goes up into Montreal and down to New York City. So Woodstock would be about halfway between.
That's right. And the thing is that over the years they've tried to recreate the magic and just have not been able to do it. In fact, I thought about Altamont Speedway a couple months later, where it was supposed to be, or is being billed as the West Coast version of Woodstock, but
except that it ended up being the murder capital of concert town, right?
Yeah, Mick Jagger made the huge mistake of hiring Hell's Angels bikers as security guards, and they were harassing the fans out in the audience. They were also even harassing different band members from the groups that were performing there. From I think Jack Cassidy from Jefferson Airplane, was hit by one of the Hells Angels bikers because he was telling the bikers to, calm down.
Yeah, that was not a smart move. That's definitely one of those "what were they thinking" moments,
Exactly.
Hire the Hells Angels for security. So
there's a reason why there's hell in their name, because they made it hell.
Yeah.
Hope they don't come after me for saying that.
Yeah.
Well, JD it was great talking with you. Anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I was just glancing at, I mentioned Dave Scott from KIRL, but there was Steve Mitchell who worked in Atlanta. He and a guy named Gary Collins and Ken Christie were at KIRL with me. Of course, we all got fired the same day, but Steve, I think, went on to be the voice of United Airlines. If you buy the headphones, this was probably back in the 80s, mm-hmm. But he worked in Atlanta and worked at Y100 in Miami for a while. And in fact, he worked at, I think after KIRL, he went over, they were just putting station in KSLQ in St. Louis was going on the air. And we had all had non-compete clauses in our KIRL contracts. But he said, screw it, and he started working at KSLQ, but then KSLQ kind of chickened out, I guess, and the company that owned KSLQ said, why don't you go to work at Y100 in Miami? And I said, well, okay. So he probably got a better deal that way, but...
yeah. Well, it's funny, Steve, you mentioned United Airlines, and I thought that it was Gene Hackman as the voiceover for the airlines, because Steve was actually on the when you buy the headphones and they have the different radio channels. Oh, okay.
He was on the promos on all of the headphone channels. So I didn't mean that he was doing the general commercials. In fact, I don't even remember when it was that he was doing that, but. I tried to get him to come out to New Orleans for a while to at least visit out here, and kind of lost track of him.
I hope you get to get back into contact soon.
Yeah, he owes me at least for what was the blaxploitation movie Shaft.
Shaft.
He was in love with the theme from Shaft, and I had a copy of the album. This was when we were in St. Louis, and I swear he ran that stylus through to the other side on that song for some reason. So he at least owes me a copy of that album.
Yeah. On vinyl, not CD.
Right, on vinyl.
In fact, vinyl's out selling CDs now.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's amazing. I don't care what you say. I still like having no noise on the CD. You can promote that analog stuff all you want as being a perfect representation of the analog signal, but it sure gets noisy in a hurry.
Yeah, the skips and the pops, and then you don't know whether it's going to Now, at TIX, do you use a computer automation system or CDs in a jewel case, or how do you?
No, it's actually Scott Studios. Remember the guy that fired me? It's his stuff they use, and it actually started as using 400 disc Sony CD changers. Mm-hmm. Interfaced with the computer. In fact, I think they were running MS-DOS at the time on the Scott Studio software, but they've since scrapped all the CD changers. Everything's on the computer, so it plays straight from the computer. That's why I said Dave Scott and I had a lot in common, because he ended up being the chief executive for Scott Studios and had a lot to do with, I'm sure, the software and whatnot. He did the TM Century disc collections for radio stations for their libraries, and he was probably as into computers as I ended up being. So we just disconnected at that point. So,
how many songs do you have on the playlist at TIX right now, do you think?
Well, we used to have, I'm going to guess it's 600 at least. Mm-hmm. And it may be more than that now, but since we've kind of slowly but surely crept into the 80s, and although at the expense somewhat of the 50s, so I'd have to. Last time I remember asking Michael that, I think his answer was 600. But
okay.
I could be wrong. I asked the same question, but.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for coming on, JD.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. I mentioned to my wife, I got a guy from the internet calling me to interview me, asked me about my radio career, and she said, "Oh, like you're a big-time disc jockey, huh?" I said, well, yeah. So,
yes, you are.
Rodney Dangerfield would say, "I don't get no respect."
Oh, yeah. When I was in high school, so ugly, no go with golf. That was me. When a girl finally would, she said, "Come over to my house this afternoon. There's nobody home." Sure enough, I got there was nobody home.
There was nobody home. I drive the only car. Dogs chase it. They catch it. So Rodney was a trip.
He was.
Too bad he's not around yet.
I know. Did you ever meet him?
Never met him. I met Jay Leno here at a concert. Well, actually, Sergeant T. Ben Boudreau, who is the guy that does the fake news on TIX in the morning, mm-hmm. The news you need now, does a 1-minute thing. He was a writer for Jay Leno, and probably he wrote more of Jay Leno's monologues than anybody else. I mean, for a while he was keeping track on his website of all the jokes that Leno used of his, and it was an astounding number. So I was sad to see Jay Leno go, only because it meant for whatever reason Jimmy Fallon didn't need Sergeant T-Ben. So. But it was interesting.
I interviewed on about a year or two ago Dave Berg, who was the longtime producer of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He wrote a book called Behind the Curtain, a Look at Jay Leno's Tonight Show. And so he talked about how, for instance, when Jay had his disastrous first couple months with Helen Kushnick as executive producer, who was bullying people, saying, well, if you appear on Arsenio Hall's show, you may not appear on The Tonight Show. And she also turned down Bill Clinton because Clinton was inquiring about appearing on The Tonight Show. And so when he turned it down, Kushnick turned it down. Yeah. Clinton went on the Arsenio Hall show, put on some Blues Brothers sunglasses, and opened the show with Heartbreak Hotel and saxophone. And Bill never did appear on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Hillary appeared, I think, about 3 or 4 times, but all the efforts to try to get Bill Clinton on never worked.
Yeah, well, understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
It's what happens when you have stupid people in broadcasting. But
yeah.
Hopefully I'm not one of them, but
We've been talking with JD the DJ, evenings on TIX 94.3 in New Orleans. Also, make sure to check out his website, jdthedj.com. He has great It's wonderful stuff. I mean, I'm still discovering some great photos on that site as well as other stories. So check it out, jdthedj.com. And until next time for the Talking Archive, this is Josh Jacobs. Keep your mind on the things above, and as you hit that open road, don't be a slowdown spectator.